Hey there, all you creepers and reapers. Welcome to another episode of the Femme Fatalities. I'm your co-hostess, Anna, and I am here with...
It's Margaret. Hello, Griefleans and Frightlings, and welcome to another cast. Anna, what are we talking about today?
We are going to talk about B horror movies, because B stands for the best.
Ooh, yes, B horror movies. So, listeners, if you are not familiar, B horror is a term that came out to describe movies mainly in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And I'm going to say into the 80s. B horror really, it's not as popular as it was now. These movies were low budget. They were made fun of because they didn't have the best graphics. They didn't have the best actors or writing or direction. They were just cheesy. And because they lacked in so much, they were considered B horror. Fun facts. The first Friday the 13th was considered B horror. The first Nightmare on Elm Street was considered B horror. So
Yeah.
B horror, yeah, right there. And of course, the first Friday the 13th, because that, if you listen to the people that worked on that film, that was very low budget.
Yes, but that's what makes them so great. And it's fun, it's silly, it's cheesy, the jump scares are ridiculous. Like, that's what makes B movies so great. And yeah, I feel like they don't, like Margaret said, we don't get as many these days, but there are so many from like yesteryear that are so entertaining and so much fun. There are so many to choose from too, and that's the thing, is what started our whole idea for this cast was the B movie called Wolf Cop. And we were texting back and forth, and it's this B horror movie about a cop who becomes a werewolf. I mean, come on, use your imagination if you haven't seen it yet. If you haven't seen it yet and you need a laugh, I think it's hilarious. So yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of, oh my gosh, great options, newer ones. I don't know if you've seen these. Slay, which drag queens in a country bar and vampires that turn to glitter when they're killed. Like, that is a great.
Yeah, I mean, what more could you... like, honestly, it checks all the boxes. It's great.
Yes. Slaxx. I don't know if you've seen this one about a pair of killer pants that kills people, and it's making a commentary on like now how so many companies say they're non-GMO, they're not sweatshop, they're ethically traded, and basically this pair of pants comes from all those things, but the company is saying, oh no, we're none of those things. So the pants are pissed and they're going on a killing spree. Great movie just for a dance scene in there. If you haven't seen it, it's entertaining.
I imagine.
Yes.
Wow. Oh, well, and B movies are so great because, I mean, most of the trauma films, they're all considered B movies. Toxic Avenger, Mutant High, like they're great. They're hilarious. And then we get into like the 80s, right? And just like Chopping Mall. Those sorts of movies are funny, and they're just, that's why you watch them, because they're cheesy and corny and funny and all of those delicious things. Like Night of the Creeps, that one is terrible. I can barely sit through it, but it's great because that's what it is. And then of course you have like the low budget ones that turn into hits, or they have this cult following now. I know for me, Basketcase, which I've mentioned in other casts before, that's one of my favorite movies. It's definitely a B movie, but it's great. I love it. I think it's awesome. One of these days we will get around to, a full cast on it, maybe. The same with like It's Alive.
Dead Alive.
Yeah, Dead Alive is like, if you haven't seen it, you need to go stream it right now. I mean, it's a classic. It's great.
Evil Dead, another. That has a huge cult following.
Oh yeah, and like
Killer Clowns.
so like sequels that have come from the Evil Dead films, and there's going to be
Yes.
another Evil Dead Rise on the horizon. I mean, just, you know, one low budget movie has created so much cool stuff. And that's what, you know, makes it really fun and exciting too. It's like, what are they going to come up with next?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's just even, okay, so I would say if you're looking for B horror movies, if you have any old episodes of like Horror Hound or Fangoria or anything like that laying around, look through. There are always like Videodrome suggestions of like films from back in the day, and they're great. I mean, you get a little brief description so you kind of know like, oh, is this for me? Is it not? And it's just fun. It's great. Um have you ever seen Critters?
Yes.
I feel like
Yeah.
definitely like on the B, like Ghoulies, Critters, The Gate, like they're kind of borderline
Yes.
on the B movie side, but they're all freaking hilarious.
I would say they're low budget
Mhm.
and yeah, they're up there. So it'd be, what is it? Return of the Living, no, what is it? Night of the Living Dead, right? The
Yeah,
Toxic Waste. Yeah, like that's another
yeah. I mean, a lot of the
horror.
classic films that we think about now are kind of could be considered B movies too. You know, and like you're right though, the two Return of the Living Deads, the fact that there were two of them automatically kind of makes it almost a B movie situation, but they're so great. Like they're funny, they're ridiculous, they're hilarious. You know, it's just weird situations. I mean, how many people, when you say Return of the Living Dead, Tarman immediately pops into your mind, you know? And he's iconic now.
Yes. B horror, yeah, you're saying, like it just leads to like all these iconic images and
Mm-hmm.
scenes and sayings that people like they live. Like
Oh my
that's
gosh, yeah. Chew
yeah,
bum, kick butt. Uh-huh.
yes, like right there. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
the 80s was probably the peak of
Oh yeah.
B movies, just tons of them. And now with technology,
Mm-hmm.
B movies aren't that big of a thing anymore because technology can make I can make a movie look awesome on my phone.
Yeah, you're right. And it would be fun to kind of bring back the old B movie genre a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
They're fun and they're cool and it's just something different and entertaining.
Yes, I think there's like late 2000 teens, like because I was trying to think of like
Mm.
B movies for this podcast, and I asked my kiddo, I was like, "What's your favorite B movie?" And she's like, "Attack of the Killer Doughnuts," which I forgot, and I had to look it up, and it was made like in
Oh my
2016, and it
gosh.
is such
That's
a
hilarious.
horror film. Yeah, it's
Wow.
funny. The donuts with teeth are just ridiculous. The acting is. It's got C.
Yeah.
Thomas Howell in it though. He plays a
Okay.
cop, so
Yeah.
yeah, but it's like one of those movies where like the teenage son actually looks like he's 30 and mom looks like she's probably 35, and you're like, oh, okay.
Right. Well, and
Mm-hmm.
it's funny how many B movies are food genre, right? Like Killer Tomatoes, Killer Donuts, Poultriguest. You know, all of these movies, they're so food. The Stuff, that's a real classic 80s slasher B movie. But it's a great comment on commercialism in society too. And that's a theme that's very common. Like if you look back at a lot of these, They Live, Stuff, Chopping Mall, like all of these different genres, even Silent Night, Deadly Night, which is so sad. I still feel so sad for Billy. But you're looking at commercialization and what it does to our society. And I think it's really fun, you know, through the horror lens, how this is displayed.
Oh, I agree. Yes. They're just funny pokes at society. A lot of them are.
Yeah, and it's cool. Like, and I think at the end of the day, that's really what brings horror fans together because I have, knock on wood, I've never been to a horror convention where I walk in and there's a feeling of like negativity or drama in there. Everyone is excited to be there. there are people from all sorts of walks of life. I mean, I've hung out with kindergarten teachers to like horror professionals at these events, and everybody is super excited about the films that they enjoy, hearing what other people enjoy, romping around, meeting stars, meeting directors, going to like all these spoken events, getting, you know, cool swag. It's a great experience. And I think that's something that's really fun about most horror fans is we have this bond. Like, I don't care where you're from. If I walk by you in this shirt and you scream Wolfman has nards at me, I know you're cool. Like, automatically.
Yes. Yes, exactly. That's how we stick out. That's how we identify each other so often, and how fun that is when you're wearing a shirt and someone's like, Wolfman's got nards, or like, I love that movie, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, cool. Like, awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that is, we love B movies. We want to know, tell us what your favorite B movies are so maybe we could cast about them. Of course, there's also the ginormous animal segment of B movies, which, you know, I would say, I feel like Anaconda, Lake Placid, all of those movies that came out around the same time, even though they hit theaters and stuff, they're kind of borderline B movies. I think I forget what it was called. If anybody's listening and you know, there's one about giant capybaras, which I just think is hilarious, because they are giant to start with for their species. But it's a lot of fun. And then, of course, the old 1970s, it was called and it was about snakes and this guy who turned into a snake, and I think they were part of a Pentecostal church and all sorts of crazy things. And also like Squish and Squirm and Splat were names like that, and they were like bugs. Frogs was another one. Slugs was another one.
Slither.
Yes. Did you ever see Slugs when she's making the salad? To this day, I thoroughly clean all of my lettuce because I saw that movie as a little child and it freaked me out so bad. So there's this scene where she's cutting up the lettuce and there are these like killer slugs in it. And so I don't know, like her spouse or dude, whatever, eats the salad. And then I think he's like in the shower and he like explodes and there's just slugs everywhere.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
something like that. I don't remember exactly, but I remember it was enough to freak me out as a kid. Yeah.
That is terrifying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's just so many. And then of course you have like the, you know, the folklore cryptid, that kind of stuff, which is also a big thing. So you were telling me about a couple that you had seen recently, and we have to do like an episode on these. Like you'd seen a Bigfoot type movie.
And recently. I can't remember that one. It's been a while. I'm gonna have to like rewatch it, find the title. It's found footage. I wonder if B horror's kind of like that is its new
like
no
kind of area.
Yeah, found footage. Yeah, so there's a Bigfoot one, and then I just watched Frogman, which had a lot of promise, and I was very disappointed in the movie. But if you're a B horror fan, I feel like people will really like Frogman, just coming from like a found footage and B horror genres.
Was Frogman totally awesome?
The Frogman was pretty cool looking. The plot was, I had issues with the plot. I feel like they were trying to cram in a whole bunch of stuff. And he is also, Frogman is a real like cryptid belonging, I don't remember what state, but I thought that was really cool.
That is pretty rad. Well, and there was one like I'd seen quite some time ago. My mom and I still laugh about it. It's called Mansquito. So it's kind of like a knockoff of The Fly. It's so awful. It's great. But I mean, you get into like Sharknado, Ghost Shark, like all those movies, they're all B movies. They're all great. Like,
Mhm.
I just think they're rad. Even like Swamp Thing, it when I rewatched it, the special effects, like I'm like, oh yeah, this really was kind of a B movie, wasn't it? But it's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And just there are so many. Like I'm just thinking about Snakes on a Plane it was kind of a higher budget B movie, but it's fantastic.
Oh yeah, it's a great movie.
I mean, the fact that Samuel L. Jackson's in it, like you come into this with like some good expectations because
Yes.
it is what it is for that genre, but it's pretty great.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree. Snakes on a Plane, great one.
Mm-hmm.
So many, so many. So listeners, you'll have to let us know what are your favorites. What should we watch? Because there's just,
Mm-hmm.
especially as we dive into it,
There's a lot. And a great thing about B movies too is think about it. They're kind of like life in the aspect that, you know what? Maybe there's not enough resources to put into it. Maybe the final product at that time feels a little bit lackluster, but there's someone out there that will appreciate it. And it's just like, you
yes,
know what? If you're going through something and you don't feel like you have the energy to put into yourself and maybe you're feeling a little lackluster, there's still others out there who appreciate you, whether it's a friend, a family member, a pet, a complete stranger at the subway who smile and they smile back. There's still someone out there who will appreciate you.
yes. And I love that you touch on that. Like, do your passion, like, go for it. I mentioned Sovam in a previous cast. A 17-year-old
Mm-hmm.
transgender person wrote, directed, produced this movie. And while it is like watching 17-year-olds in drama class, I appreciate it. Like, it was
Yeah.
so creative. And so yes, do your passion. That's why we love B movies, is because
Mm-hmm.
somebody put their passion into it, even if the acting's not the best. There's these passionate people that are trying. I think a lot of B movies too, people are like, hey, I'm making this movie, and they get their friends and family. And so we're like, the acting wasn't the best because it's probably somebody's mom that
Mm-hmm.
they're like, hey mom, I just need you to be a mom in this movie and say these lines. And so it's fun. It's
Yeah.
community.
Oh, definitely. Well, and even like, the mom thing, there are a lot of famous moms in a lot of movies too, and people just don't realize it. Like, trivia, this is not a B movie, but if you've ever seen Goodfellas, that's Martin Scorsese's mom
Mm-hmm.
in that movie. And she's in several of his movies, and it's great. I love it. But it's just fun to be like, it's a family thing. Um, I'm just trying to.
Sam Raimi or Ted
Oh
Raimi,
yeah, Sam
whatever.
Ted.
He
Always.
puts his brother in like every single
Yeah.
movie. I think
Great.
it was my kid who was like, I just realized that like that's his brother. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, he like puts his brother like in every single
Right.
movie, which is really
Yeah.
fun because I'm guessing one had a passion, the other one's like, okay, yeah, let's just do
Yeah,
this.
let's do it. Yeah. And Ted is fun too. I follow him on Instagram and his posts just always just tickle me pink. I think they're great. Oh my goodness. Well, and another way to find really fun, entertaining B movies, like if you have a local thrift shop that like sells old DVDs or most people don't have a VHS player anymore, but old DVDs maybe, or like an old bookstore or something like that. Just walk through and see what's on the shelves. You'll find all sorts of treasures.
Yes, great suggestion. Half of my to watch list, I think I've pulled off of Reddit, like horror movies, because somebody will go on there and be like, what's a good B movie? Or you can ask if you're on Reddit. And then all the people, they'll be like, try this, check this
Mm-hmm.
out. Or people will be like, I'm looking for a movie that doesn't have any assault but is gory and da 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 da. And then people will be like, try this, try that. I even asked one time feel good horror movies because I was curious what people thought, and I was like, wow, this is very subjective. Some people had like happy horror movies,
Yeah.
and other people are like, no, it's this movie for the end. So it's a fun way, and then you also connect with your community.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So get out there, check out some B horror movies. Let us know what you find and all the treasures that you come across, because we're very excited to know. And it's great. There's actually one, I can't remember what it's called, but they're in this town, and there are people called townies, and they're like fun. They're like kind of rockabilly greaser types, and then of course there are the squares, and then aliens come and they take over, and then these kung fu fighting Schlitz drinking Elvis mutants come to save the town, and it's great. And even
That
if you
sounds
don't,
awesome.
it's so cool. And even if you don't remember what it's called, like just describing this when you're talking to like people, when you're hanging out, it's so much fun because you can't sound anything but excited when you're describing such a movie.
Yes, and then it gets other people excited because B horror is just, it's fun, it's campy, it's cheesy, it's entertaining, even in the gore.
Yeah.
Like it's still like, I think Terrifier or
Yeah.
Dead Alive, like you're watching and you can't help but laugh because you're like, okay, that is pretty. I mean, my sister's kids were watching some B horror. I don't remember what it was, and somebody got decapitated, and we're like, "Is that mashed potatoes and ketchup like creative for special effects?" But then we're just laughing because we're like, "Huh, mashed potato and ketchup is coming out of that person's neck."
Right? Oh my gosh, yeah, it's fantastic and fun and just all the things, and it's great. I don't even know if I have a favorite B horror movie. I think just the genre itself is one of my favorites. What about you?
I'd have to agree because then when I think, I'm like, oh, but then there's this one and there's this one, and B horror is great because there's gonna be one that fits your mood, whatever you're in. If you want aliens or werewolves or vampires or Elvis aliens or whatever it is that you want, killer donuts, killer tomatoes, you'll find it.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, there's so many. I mean, just about objects, killer pants, like you said. I mean, there's so many different items and characters that you can find.
Do you have a favorite?
I mean, if I had to pick, it would be a tie between Basketcase and It's Alive, because those movies held special places in the empty cage where my heart should be. So definitely would be those. What about you?
Ooh, that is, They Live holds a special place for me, and Slither is a great one. There's just so many, great ones. Slay more recently, just because it's so, oh my gosh, it's so entertaining, so fun, and I love it.
You know what's great too about Slay is now if someone does something that I don't agree with or makes me feel disappointed or some sort of negative feeling, I just imagine them combusting into a bunch of glitter. I mean, it makes me feel happier.
Yes, I loved that with that movie. Just and how they came together, like talk about social commentary in such a light way. It was just, listeners, if you haven't seen Slay, go watch it. I think it's streaming on Tubi right now, and it was just a fun watch. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. I'm actually like, maybe I'll watch it tonight when I eat dinner. It's so good.
I know, I was like, I think I need to rewatch that because it was just,
yeah. All right. Well, listeners, let us know what you find at your local thrift shop or on your local streaming service, and give us some suggestions. And what's your favorite type of movie? Is it an A movie, B, C, D, or some other letter or genre? Tell us. We want to know.
Yes, let us know. And thanks for listening.
Yes. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.